Hello everyone and welcome back to the Warlock of Firetop Mountain. We have just started out on our adventure. Let us enter the lair of the Warlock. At last, our 2-day hike is over. We unsheath our sword, lay it on the ground and sigh with relief as we lower ourselves down onto the mossy rocks to sit for a moment's rest. We stretch, rub our eyes and finally look up at Firetop Mountain. The very mountain itself looks menacing. The steep face in front of us looks to have been savaged by the claws of some gargantuan beast. Sharp rocky crags jut out at unnatural angles. At the top of the mountain we can see the eerie red coloring, probably some savage vegetation, which has given the mountain its name. Perhaps no one will ever know what exactly grows up there, as climbing the peak must surely be impossible. Our quest lies ahead of us. Across the clearing is a dark cave entrance. We pick up our sword, get to our feet, and consider what dangers may lie ahead of us. But with determination, we thrust the sword home into its scabbard and approach the cave. We peer into the gloom to see dark, slimy walls with pools of water on the stone floor in front of us. The air is cold and dank. We light our lantern and step warily into the blackness. Cobwebs brush our face, and we hear the scurrying of tiny feet. Rats, most likely. We set off into the cave. Okay, so this is the entrance to the lair of the Warlock, and well, this is not very well defended, to put it mildly. I mean, apart from some skulls on some stakes to scare away adventurers and travelers, there is nothing stopping anybody just entering the cave itself. So that's some high level security right there. Let's see if that changes inside. After a few yards we arrive at a junction where we can turn west or east. Let's start by going east. The passageway soon comes to an end at a locked wooden door. We listen at the door but hear nothing. Okay, so at least that's some kind of defense mechanism, a locked wooden door, not exactly a fortress, but you know, at least it's something. We will try to charge the door down, obviously. This is our first attribute check, skill attribute check to be exact. So we roll 2 dice and we need to roll equal to or lower than our skill level, which is 10. So we have a decent chance, a very good chance actually, of getting it, but let's see if we do. And we manage to pass the skill check, and we succeed in knocking down the door. Let's see what happens. The door bursts open and we fall headlong into a room. But our heart jumps as we realize we are not landing on the floor, but plunging down a pit of some kind. Luckily, the pit is not particularly deep, and we land in a heap less than 2 meters down. We lose 1 stamina point for our bruises. Ouch. We climb out of the pit into the room and leave through the door, heading westwards. Okay, so this is probably their refuse pile, or you know, their garbage dump. Again, this is some amazing architecture. There is nowhere to go from here, it seems, so let us go in the other direction then. That must be the entrance hall. And we have still not seen or met anyone or anything so far. We arrive back at the junction in the passage. We look left to see the cave entrance in the dim distance, but we walk straight on, obviously. There is a right-hand turn to the north in the passage. Cautiously, we approach a sentry post on the corner, and as we look in, We can see a strange goblin-like creature in leather armor asleep at his post. We try to tiptoe past him. Okay, so what is not explicitly stated is that we have approached the mountain directly from the south, and so we need to go in a northwardly direction. And this guy seems to be the doorman, the guard. I mean, this warlock seems less and less scary by the moment, if this is the security he employs. Look at him. I don't think he's that scary or dangerous even when awake, but he's passed out drunk probably. I mean, this looks like a bottle of grog. Anyway, there is no point in trying to harm him. It's not like he's doing anything to us, so let's try to tiptoe past him. This is a luck attribute test, which we will definitely pass because we need to roll with 2 dice, 12 or lower, so all our rolls will be successful. Wow, and we rolled a 2, so the lowest most possible number. He does not wake up and remains snoring loudly. We continue on. To our left, on the west face of the passage, there is a rough-cut wooden door. We listen at the door and can hear a rasping sound, which may be some sort of creature snoring. Let's try to see. Let's go in and see what this snoring creature might be. The door opens to reveal a small, smelly room. In the center of the room is a rickety wooden table on which stands a lit candle. Underneath the table is a small wooden box. Asleep on a straw mattress in the far corner of the room is a short, stocky creature with an ugly, warty face. The same sort of creature that we found asleep at the sentry post. He must be the guard for the night watch. Okay, so both guards are sound asleep. This is very impressive. We could turn back, but why would we? Let's go into the room and try to take the box without waking up this orc. And we need to roll again for our luck. We take a few careful steps closer to the box. Now this time our luck attribute is 1 lower, so we need to roll an 11 or below, which is still very probable. Yes, we rolled a 3. And he does not wake up, so let's see what we get. We leave the room and open the box in the passage. Inside we find a single piece of gold and a small mouse, which must have been the creature's pet. We keep the coin and release the mouse, which scurries off down the passageway. We gain 2 luck points. Okay, so our luck attribute is back to maximum after these 2 rolls. And we have also picked up our first piece of loot, 1 single piece of gold. Amazing. Let us proceed. Further up the passage, along the west wall, we see another door. We listen at it, but hear nothing. Okay, let's try opening it. We want to explore as much of the dungeon as possible after all. The door opens to reveal a small room with a stone floor and dirty walls. There is a stale smell in the air. In the center of the room is a makeshift wooden table on which is standing a lit candle. Under the table is a small box. In the far corner of the room is a straw mattress. This looks like an identical room, identical to the previous one, so this must be the orc barracks, only this room does not have the inhabitants in it. Probably it's that sentry guard asleep at his post, so we have found his corners. But anyway, it also has a box, and we need to open every box that we come across because that's what we are here for anyway. Let's see what happens. Okay, the box is light, but something rattles within. We open the lid and a small snake darts out to bite at our wrist. We must fight. And this is indeed a small snake. I mean, it's amazing that we have to fight it with our swords when it's not bigger than our hand. But it is what it is, and this is the first enemy we encounter, so we must fight. Now, fighting is a simple affair. Both us and our adversary roll 2 dice each at the same time, and we add the result to our skill points, and whoever won manages to wound the other and deal 2 points of stamina damage, which can be either mitigated or enhanced by using luck rolls, which we are not going to do. We are not going to employ in this battle. This snake has a skill of 5, which have a skill of 10, so it has a very low chance of hitting us. And yeah, and it dies with 1 slash of our sword. Excellent. We managed to kill the snake. The box has fallen to the ground during our fight with the snake, and out of it has fallen a bronze-colored key with the number 99 carved into it. We take this key with us and leave the room. We gain 1 luck point, which we didn't need as our luck was already at maximum, but we have obtained our first key, number 99. It's a bronze colored key with number 99, so it's excellent. Further up the passage on the west wall we see another similar door. We listen at the door and grimace to hear the worst singing we have ever heard in our lives. Do we want to go into the room and investigate this hideous din? Of course we do. I mean, the worst singing ever heard in our life deserves a thorough investigation for sure. The door opens to reveal a small room. The room is dirty and unkempt. A straw mattress lies in one corner. In the center of the room is a wooden table upon which a candle burns, lighting the room with its flickering flame. A small box rests under the table. Seated around the table are 2 small creatures with warty skin, dressed in leather armor. They are drinking some sort of grog, and by the way they stagger to their feet on our arrival, we assume that they are very drunk. Okay, so this is another similar room, and you know what? One of these guys might be the inhabitant of the previous room who just came over to have a drink with his buddy here. And yeah, I mean, they wouldn't look dangerous even when sober, but total drunk they don't scare me at all. Let's take care of them. We don't want to alert them or have anyone chasing us down the corridors, so let's just make quick work of these orcs. We draw our sword and leap forwards at them. The 2 drunken orcs we now face are obviously startled at our entrance, and as quickly as they are able, they fumble around for weapons. We must attack each one in turn. Their drunkenness allows us to add 1 point of skill during this battle. It's another thing, the battle system in Fighting Fantasy doesn't allow us to fight multiple enemies at the same time. There are exceptions in a few later books, but that's the main point here. So we always fight enemies one at a time. And they are startled at our entrance, but there was literally nothing stopping us until this point. The snake was in a box, so it definitely wasn't standing guard. So let's deal with these idiots. Once again, this first orc is very weak. It's not any more skilled than the snake, it's just a bit more tough. And yeah, this is going to be a very lopsided battle in our favor. The second orc is not better at all. It has a bit more stamina, but that's not going to help him. Oh, and we managed to draw. If there is a tie, nothing happens. We both miss. And he's dead. We wipe our bloodied sword on the mattress. The green blood leaves a slimy stain on the straw. Stepping over the bodies towards the table, we flinch at the foul stench of the creatures. We pick up the box from under the table and examine it. It is a small wooden box with huge, crude hinges. The name Farigo di Maggio is inscribed on a brass nameplate on its lid. Okay, let's open the book box, see what it contains. This sounds interesting. Finally, something worthwhile. The box contains a small leather-bound book entitled The Making and Casting of Dragonfire. Fortunately, it is written in our own language and thus was probably unintelligible to the orcs. Otherwise, this treasure would certainly not have been as loosely guarded as it was. The book is written in tiny handwriting by Farigo di Maggio. In it, he tells the story of his life's work, the creation of the Dragonfire spell, which was crafted to fight evil dragons. We read how, in his last years, Farigo finally perfected his spell, but by then he was too old to make use of it. So he completed his book, locked it in a chest and hid it in the depths of the Firetop Mountain, afraid of what might happen if it were to fall into the wrong hands. The last page reads, "And so, you who now hold this book, you have my life's work in your hands. The power of destruction is yours if you wish it, but do not waste it. Unless you use the spell for the purpose for which it was intended, you shall be consumed by evil itself and die by the fire from your own hands. Remember, only when the dragon breathes its fire at you should you raise your arms and say, Ikil Irif, Ikem Irif, Irif Irif Di Maggio." This backwards it reads, "Like fire, make fire, 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 Di Maggio." You say these words slowly and softly. We say these words slowly and softly. Suddenly, the pages seem to glow. As the glow disappears, the words on the page fade with it. We repeat the spell to ourselves to memorize it and leave the room. Oh, this is interesting. At least we have learned something. I wouldn't call it this entry part the depths of Firetop Mountain. I mean, at least I hope that this dungeon has more to offer, so we're not already in the middle of it, the thick of it. But anyway, this is great progress. We have picked up something useful, and we only needed to dispatch 2 drunken orcs for it. So let's continue. I'm feeling positive about this. We eventually arrive at the end of the passage at a 3-way junction. So at the T-junction, we came from the south and we can turn either west or east. Let's go west this time. East didn't work out last time. The passageway runs straight for several meters and then ends at a wooden door. We listen at the door and hear angry shouting coming from within. Well, this definitely warrants an investigation. Let's enter. We open the door to a large room. A large chair behind a solid-looking table suggests to us that someone or something of rank uses this room. A chest in the center catches our eye. In a corner of the room stands a man-sized creature with a warty face standing over a smaller creature of similar race. With the whip in his hand, the orc chieftain has been beating his servant, who is whimpering beneath him. Oops. What a scene. I mean, This is something to be expected though. Uh, Brutal violence, pointless. And the guy has this little creature, the servant, has quite a few gnashes in his side. Well, they don't scare me, so although we could leave and head back for the junction, we're obviously not going to do that. We could attack them both or spring at the chieftain and hope that his servant will aid us. Let's see if that happens. Maybe we can get some information out of this guy here. As we spring at the chieftain, his servant rises to his feet, picks up a hefty wooden stick and joins the melee. Good. But to our disappointment, he attacks us. Ungrateful wretch. Wow. And now we still have time to run away, but now I'm furious. We need to teach these orcs a lesson. And so we will. We will fight them. The orcs rush towards us and the battle commences. Okay, the orc chieftain is at least somewhat dangerous as an opponent with a skill of 7. At least he has some chances of hitting us. Let's see how it goes first. Okay, that must have been a bug. We killed him in one strike. This has never happened to me before with this program. He had 6 stamina points and we destroyed it in one fell swoop. This was not intentional, but this is fine. He probably wouldn't have hit us anyway. Let's see how we face the servant. Roll double, instant kill. Okay. Okay, this is what must have happened. I think this is a new rule. Anyway, this has never happened to me before. But we defeated both the chieftain and his wretch, and it turns out it wasn't a bug at all, so we were just so awesome with our sword that it just collapsed after one hit each. Let's see what our reward is. The green blood of the dead orcs smells foul as it seeps from their bodies. We step around the corpses and investigate the chest. It is a sturdy affair, made of strong oak and iron, and is firmly locked. Let's try to smash the lock with our sword. After all, we need some reward after we disposed of these 2 orcs. The lock was obviously inadequate. It flies off and lands on the floor several meters away. We lift up the heavy lid and our eyes widen as we see the gold sheen coming from within. A fair number of gold pieces are inside. In one corner lies a small black bottle with a tight glass stopper containing a liquid of some kind. Also, in the chest is a silky black glove. But as we are admiring this treasure, we hear a soft click and wince in pain as a small dart shoots forward into our stomach. Okay, so on the one hand, we have picked up some gold, we have found some gold, we haven't picked it up yet. Liquid of some kind and a silky black glove, so this is great. But it seems that we have been wounded by a poison dart, so let's determine the potency of the poison. We roll a die and the number it shows is going to be the amount of damage it deals to us. We rolled 4 and lost 4 stamina. Not great, not horrible. We are obviously still alive. Let's proceed. We sink to the floor. We pull the dart out and decide to bandage the wound. This gives some relief, but we are still weak. We decide to take it easy and examine the contents of the chest. There are 25 gold pieces, and the label on the bottle shows it to be a potion of invisibility, good for 1 dose. The glove is a mystery. We put all of these into our haversack and leave the room. Okay, so on the one hand we are down to 17 stamina points. On the other, we have a bunch of money and some random stuff. So I'll call it a fair exchange. Let us get out of here. We arrive back at the junction in the passage and walk straight on eastwards. There is nowhere else to go, so this is the correct choice. We arrive at another junction in the passage, and it seems that we are coming from the west, and we can either turn north or continue eastwards. Well, we shouldn't rush this. It is an adventure after all. So let's continue eastwards, because we know that our goal is somewhere to the north. So let's see where that leads us. The passage ends at a solid wooden door with metal hinges. Listening at the door, we hear strange mutterings and the clatter of what could be pots and pans. Whatever is in there, there are several of them. And before we go through the door, just one thing. We could theoretically leave now with a bunch of gold and some extra items we've picked up, so this could be already a successful adventure, I would say, and quite a funny one. I mean, we only needed to poke our head in and get out with the gold of the captain of the guards. But anyway, we're not gonna do that. We're here for the big reward, the treasure of the Warlock himself. It's not here beyond this door, but something is, so let's go and see what it is. We open the door into a large room, which can only be the dining room of the same warty-faced creatures we now recognize. Sitting round a large table are 5 orcs, busily drinking and dribbling their bowls of rat gizzard soup. All are involved in a rowdy argument as to who will get to chew the rat bones left in the large soup cauldron, so they do not see us enter. Catchy. Okay, so we could run away. Obviously they haven't noticed us, but again, let's not leave enemies behind us alive. I know we'll have the 2 sleeping orcs behind us, but hopefully they will just keep on sleeping. And besides, we want to explore what this room has to offer, their kitchen and diner has to offer, and for obvious reasons we need to take care of them first. So we will be bold and attack them. We need to fight all 5 orcs at once. This might be somewhat dangerous, but I'm not afraid. These orcs have been extremely weak in the past, and as I say this, the first one manages to avoid our first blow, but that's not going to save him. The second one is even weaker. Now he's dead. The third one is just as strong or weak as the first orc was. He's dead as well. Okay, the fourth orc has the same stats as exactly the same stats as the snake. Let's see if we can kill it in one hit, and we can. And it was another double roll. The 5th orc is the weakest enemy we have encountered so far. With a skill level of 4, it stands no chance of even hitting us. Yeah, we rolled the minimum potential that we could have rolled, the worst roll we could have had, and we still very confidently killed him. We are triumphant, which is indeed excellent. Let's see what happens now that we have bested all 5 of these creatures. We are proud of our victory and gain 1 skill and 5 stamina points. Yay! We search the bodies of the dead orcs, but find only a few teeth, nails, bones and knives in their pockets. We search the cupboards around the room, but find only crude bowls, plates and spoons, but under the serving hatch we find a thin leather case half a meter long. Before we open this leather case, I'd like to point out that we are back at maximum stamina level, which is great, back at full health, and also that we regained 1 skill point, which we had no way of losing. It's impossible that to have lost a skill point up until this point, but whatever. Let's open our case and let's take a look at our reward. The case opens easily, and inside we find a magnificent bow and 1 silver arrow. An inscription on the case says, "The giver of sleep to those who never can." We put the bow, arrow and case in our pack and leave the room, and we gain 1 luck point. Pleased with our discovery, we leave the room and continue our quest. And they have a mouse problem, and also all of their all of their silverware seems to be cracked, but this bow looks great. Obviously it's a one-shot weapon only, but we'll take it. This was definitely worth the hassle. We move swiftly down the passage and arrive back at the junction. We turn northwards this time. That's right. We came from the west, we cleared out the eastern portion, there is nowhere else to go but forward, northwards, let's go. We see a well-used door on the right-hand east side of the passageway. With our ear to the keyhole, we listen and hear a man screaming for help from the inside. Okay, let's try to help him then. The door is locked. We may use our skill to try to charge it down. Now, again, we have a skill level of 10. We need to roll 10 or below. Let's see if we manage. And we do. The door bursts open. The locked door bursts open and the nauseating stench hits our nostrils. Inside the room, the floor is covered with bones, rotting vegetation and slime. A white-haired old man, clothed in rags, rushes at us, screaming. His beard is long and grey and he's waving an old wooden chair leg. Wow. Okay, he doesn't look dangerous. I mean, he doesn't look strong, rather, but it's clear that there is something wrong with this guy. This looks like a dungeon, so this is probably a prisoner of some sort. Is he simply insane as he appears, or has this been some kind of trap? Well, as a general rule of thumb, we should always try to pacify and converse with everyone and everything we come across. We might learn something, and even if we have to fight them, at least we can start out by being civil. So let's try to shout at him to see if he calms down. We shout, "You are freed, old man," at the top of our voice. Instantly, his rantings cease. He stops dead in his tracks and sinks to the floor, weeping loudly. As he gradually composes himself, he thanks us many times. We talk with him in the hope of discovering some of the secrets of the mountain, and he begins to tell us his story. Many years ago, he was an adventurer like us, in search of the Warlock's treasure. He was captured by the orcs and thrown into this solitary cell as a sort of pet for the creatures. We ask whether he would like to accompany us in the mountain, but he simply wants to leave and see the world again. We ask him for advice, but he says he knows little. He advises us to pay our respects to the boatman. He tells us that we must pull the right-hand lever on the wall ahead to open the iron gate at the end of the passage. He has also learned that the keys to the boathouse are guarded by a man and his dog. We shake hands, leave the cell, and go our separate ways. We also gain 1 luck point. Okay, this is great. We've managed to do a good deed just because we are killers and robbers does not mean that we cannot be a part-time hero. And we are, apparently. We have saved this poor wretched old man's life and gave him back his freedom. We have also learned 3 new things. First of all, pay our respects to the boatman. We have kind of known this already. We must pull the right hand lever on the wall. Okay, that's good to know. And the keys to the boathouse are guarded by a man and his dog. Whatever that means. Let's move on. Further up the passage, we see a door in the east wall. We listen hard but can hear no sound. Do we want to open the door? Yes. The door is firmly locked. Okay, let's try to force it open. We charge the door, hitting it squarely with our shoulder. This is another skill check. Let's see if we pass it. And we do. The door splits along its length, and we can wrench the timbers apart to let ourselves in. A torch hangs from one wall, lighting up a small armory room stocked with swords, shields, helmets, daggers, breastplates and the like. We examine the weaponry and find nothing appearing superior to our own sword. However, a circular iron shield with a golden crescent at its center catches our eye. We pick it up and feel its weight on our arm. This shield will aid us in battle by helping to fend off damage. We add the crescent shield to our gear, leave the room and continue up the corridor. Okay, first of all, amazing that this shield caught our eye. It's right below the torch in the middle of the room. It's like the centerpiece. Second, it's kind of surprising that literally none of these items were superior, none of the other items I mean, were superior to what we have equipped. That means either that we came with some high level gear, or, which I don't think so, by the way, or that the orcs have some really crappy equipment, which is more likely. I mean, they probably get the scraps, and that speaks volumes once again what kind of security the Warlock employs. I mean, so far this has been really laughable. But anyway, we have now got the Crescent Shield, which gives us a 1 in 6 chance of negating some damage when we get wounded. It's not a very useful item, but it's still better than nothing. It didn't cost us anything, so we have acquired our first equipment upgrade, which is somewhat of an achievement. Hooray! Let us move on. We continue up the corridor. On the east wall of the passage we see yet another door, the third in a line, in a row. This time this door is made of solid metal. Listening at the door, we hear the sound of tortured screams coming from within. Let us investigate. The door is not locked and it opens. The room in front of us seems to be a small torture chamber with various torture devices around the walls. In the center of the room, 2 small, hunchbacked creatures are torturing a dwarf who is tied to a hook in the ceiling by his wrists. The 2 hunchbacks are poking and cutting him viciously with their swords. The dwarf lets out a final scream and falls silent, eyes closed. His captors make disappointed noises and look around angrily at us as if it were our fault that the dwarf has collapsed. We must act quickly. We can run out of here, which is not a very heroic approach to this encounter. We could try to attack them, Or we could stride over to the dwarf, give him a jab with our sword, and put on an evil laugh for the torturer. So we could pretend that we are in league with them. This sounds interesting, but although we are not a moral compass for the world necessarily, not the epitome of good, but we are still not that evil. Instead, let's try to kill these creatures and hope that the dwarf survived. Maybe he can help us along our way with some information. Maybe we can help him be a hero for a change, right? These two evil creatures are goblins. They attack us one at a time, right? Goblins don't scare me. Let's kill them. And they shouldn't. They shouldn't scare us. This one was quite pathetic. Let's see the second one. He's just as pathetic. Okie dokie, we have won. We cut down the dwarf. He is, as we guessed, dead, sadly. Going through the pockets of the two goblins, we find a large piece of sweet-smelling cheese. We put it in our pack and leave the room northwards. For some reason we cannot eat the cheese, although I wouldn't necessarily want to eat a piece of cheese that was in the pocket of a torturer goblin. Anyway, let's see where we're at. We arrive at the end of the passage, where it meets another, going east-west. But an iron portcullis blocks our way, and no amount of charging is going to budge it. On the wall to our right are two levers, and it seems likely that these levers have something to do with raising this portcullis. Which do we pull, the right or the left one? Well, we know the answer, that we need to pull the right lever to proceed. So this is not much of a puzzle. But instead of doing that, I'm going to make the cut of the video right here. This seems to be the perfect place to take a break, take a breath, and continue from here. I thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.